All right, welcome guys to episode 4 of Riftwalk. I'm here with CD, Colin, Mangaka, and myself, Superbian MG. And we're going to try to keep this episode a little short this week. There's not a whole lot to focus on as far as EU goes, and they had some interesting games, but obviously there's a few that stood out a bit more than the other. And then obviously we are also going to get to the Piglet Team Liquid situation because, well, everybody's wondering whether it was a great idea, what's going on, if Piglet's going to come back or not, and we're all obviously happy with the return of Superbian MG. And we're going to try to keep this episode a little short this week. There's not
your American patriotism.
All right, so let's start off with just like a brief recap of EU, since next week is when we'll be doing the really big EU stuff because it'll be SK Gaming versus Fnatic, El Classico, as the right people love to call it, even though neither SK for the longest time was just not relevant. It was like Fnatic and Gambit, and then now it's like El Clasico because SK Gaming is relevant again. But yeah,
right. And now Fnatic doesn't even have like the classic lineup of XP.
No, it's like it's like there's like
it's like
who is left? Who is left in El Clasico, right? So it's just like on SK it's like NIF, right?
Yeah, necessarily no N-rated support.
No, sorry, N-rated. You're right.
Yeah,
I think it's just N-rated because Fox is different, Sven's different, Freddy's different, and Forgiven's different. So it's and then on Fnatic it's like Yellow Star.
Yeah, it's like that old gritty reboot where all the old action stars have just like retired. They moved into the mentor positions.
Yeah.
But the younger new faces just like do on with the remake. So, on the subject of EU, not a lot's happened. SK still undefeated, still #1. So we're not going to get the hype around SK versus Fnatic that we were expecting in earlier weeks or hoping for, like we did with CLG and TSM this week.
Fnatic lost again
game.
to Copenhagen Wolves, who are suddenly 4-4. They're suddenly 4-4.
Yeah, to Copenhagen Wolves' credit, in that game, they played really well against Reignover's Rengar. Except they forgot how to play against it, like when they were sieging Fnatic's bottom inhibitor, so they let him get an ult flank off through the base gates. They weren't expecting the base gates, my friends.
To be fair,
his almost got Fnatic.
He's really good at He's really good. I can't believe Elements lost to H2K and Gambit. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Elements had a rough week. Froggen busted out the Anivia against Gambit, but wasn't strong enough of a throwback for him.
But the problem is,
I didn't get to see that. You gone?
I guess the problem with that for me is, like, Anivia's like just this immobile. Like, the game's too mobile now for Anivia.
Yep.
And, like, Gambit had Diamond who on Nidalee, and Nidalee doesn't give two. Like, there's no way in hell Frog and CC. Like he needs to land that one ability, right? The Ice Ball. There's no way that's hitting Nidalee. It's not hitting Callista. It's not hitting Ari. Morgana doesn't care. She's just gonna Black Shield it. So it's just like it was so completely ineffective. It's not even funny.
Azir is knocking on Froggen's door like, yo, I heard you like birds. We'll talk to Riot. We'll get like a Frostbird skin for me. You and I can get together sometime. Shurima wants to visit you.
And they went double AP.
Yeah.
And so Edward just kind of built Locket, and that was like, okay.
Yep.
Like that. So it's one of those things where it's just like, if double AP falls behind or isn't doing well,
it's
just
super hard.
It's really easy to counter, so...
Yeah, it was. We kind of saw that with Gravity. In Team Liquid's game against Gravity in NA, they ran this really weird DPS double AP comp, and Gravity was able to burst through it pretty efficiently. But also, Team Liquid didn't play their comp in the way that it should have been played, and tried to make plays a little too early. And there were more issues with that. But yeah,
there are a lot of
side
issues.
Note on that.
I guess
the
thing with
issues with that.
Shook has been looking iffy in some games when he's not on like Rek'Sai.
Yeah.
Okay. Other problems with Elements is I just think Reckless is too passive. Like it's okay. Okay, so you went 0-0-1 against HTA. Like, congratulations on not dying, but your team could have used you trying to make a play.
Yeah.
So I hate the whole, like, I hate the whole Medjai. Like Medjai's has really made a comeback. Like
Yeah.
his bought at least by at least one player in every single game. But it's just like Nif bought it, but he
In
went
Europe, yeah.
0-3-1. So it's one of those things where
Like,
it's just like
no.
there's no stacks coming from, and it's not gold efficient at 5 stacks.
Yeah,
So
it's barely that. And you need a snowball with it, and it's a gamble.
his
Which
items
you
were
don't want to do.
Spell Thief's Edge,
Mhm.
Medjai's Stole Stealer, and a Sight Stone. Not even upgraded.
Um,
So it's one of those things where
Not
it's
even
just
upgraded.
like, and boots
that
mobility.
could have, yeah, that could have worked towards like a locket or something that's guaranteed usefulness instead of a gamble. So Europe does silly Europe things. I mean,
Something.
they just do.
I mean, maybe
do,
not
yeah,
lock
they
it,
just do.
but they could definitely have used
Mm.
a Mikhail's because they were against a
Oh,
team with Thresh, Ari, and Maokai. So they definitely
Maokai,
could have
yeah,
used
cleanse that's easy.
a Mikhail's, possibly. Which
Yeah.
granted, that item's not cheap, but definitely probably could use
Yeah,
put that towards
it
Mikhail's
would have worked
instead.
towards it. Yeah,
Yep.
I agree with that. Okay, so uh, that's really all I think to talk about with Europe. So we
Oh,
can get into the more
that's
big news.
all
Or
talk
unless you
about
got
with
more.
elements. Really, I do want to quickly mention that
Yeah.
Gambit went 2-0. And while one
Woo!
of those wins was against Giants, which obviously isn't the best team out there, they did manage to they beat Elements. And it's one of those things where it's just like,
Mhm.
Nidalee is a very diamond style champion, right? Like there
Oh,
is
yeah,
no
there's
more.
Cameron Jungle.
That's a very like that's a diamond champion. So the fact that I don't think you can give that to Gambit anymore. Honestly,
no, I
like you
agree with
have to
that.
ban Nidalee because against Gambit because
Mhm.
that was really good. And I think like Cabochard, I think played really well this weekend. I think it's kind of something that
Mhm.
everyone has been expecting him to play like. His Morgana,
Mhm.
I've been waiting for Morgana top to really become a thing because it just makes sense.
Mhm.
And his Morgana was really good. And
Yeah, and we've seen that work in Korea. Jenner is able to run at top.
yeah, and I
So
guess maybe if they pick up Corey, who knows? It's not like Nick has been
that's right.
great,
That is a roster.
but
Yeah,
if they do
that's
pick
right.
up
They're having
Corey
a roster
from
shift.
MIM, because well, it's not guaranteed for sure yet, but Nick's
Mhm.
NIQ is going to be out for at least a few games for health reasons, so
Right. So.
they could pick Corey, and it could end up permanent. I mean, Nick NIQ has been okay; he hasn't been like outstanding.
Mhm.
Um, but I do think Gambit's is actually in a place where I mean, it's not like they're too. I don't think they're too far behind. You know, I certainly think that Gambit could make a play to like get into that higher position. They're tied for seventh right now, just one game out of a three-way
Yeah.
tie for fourth. I definitely think they could at least sneak into that. They could sneak into the playoffs. I think,
Yeah.
and
I
I
agree.
wouldn't cut them
I agree with that.
out then. And obviously
Yeah.
they are going to
So.
be in IM World Championship, and like
Katowice.
yeah. And it's one of those things where
Is
it's
that
just
next
like,
month?
even against the likes of GE Tigers, Gambit has definitely earned the
Mhm.
right. Like they own IMs, even when they're performing poorly, they own IMs. So it's one of those
And
things where you
locally,
literally
yeah.
just can't cut them out because for some reason they're really good
Yep.
IMs. But
Yeah.
apart from that, I guess in like a lot, Unicorns of Love went 2-0. Rocket went
Yeah, that's right.
0-2, which is kind of, and H2K went 2-0. So it's an
Mhm.
interesting week. A lot of bad teams played good teams,
Mhm.
and like in the scenario of like Unicorns of Love took down Rocket. I think Rocket was a team that might have been a little overhyped, honestly, in the beginning of the season. Nuke clearly isn't quite as good as people thought he would be.
Yeah. He's struggling this split.
Like he's too much of a solo queue mentality. So
Mhm.
I think Rocket might continue to struggle. I can't think of any specific reason why they would suddenly get better.
Right.
So yeah, that's pretty much that is pretty much all there is to really talk about with you. SK's undefeated, yay. They'll go against
By far.
Fnatic, but they're 6-2, so it's just like, well, I certainly think Fnatic is the team most likely to beat SK Gaming. I don't think it's gonna
Mhm.
happen.
I agree with that.
And they'll
Yeah,
lose
no,
before
I
the end of
don't.
the season. I don't think they're gonna
Yeah.
break Cloud9's record for most. Well, they can't break the record for most wins because it's a short
Yeah.
season. But I don't think they're gonna finish
Right.
undefeated.
Okay. Yeah. They would probably. I could see them dropping games to Fnatic. I'm trying to think of other one. My mind wants to
Unicorns
say
of Love
Elements,
could probably
but
pull one out. In the
yeah,
right
actually,
situation. I'm not saying
yeah,
time. I do
yeah.
think.
It would be definitely less probable.
Yeah,
Maybe
it
more
would
probable.
probably have to involve a poor pick and ban from SK Gaming, which is generally unlikely for them. I do
Yeah,
think
they're really good.
Power of Evil is better than Fox,
Hmm.
so I think there's something there. But
Yeah, for them to make a playoff.
and Vardig's obviously isn't terrible. I think SK has the advantage in top and jungle and AD carry. So it would require
Yeah, obviously.
Power Eel would have to go off. So
Yeah.
and then obviously Elements could probably pull it off if
Hmm.
maybe. But yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely the
Yeah.
SK Gaming show in the EU LCS.
Yep.
So our next topic
So.
is, I guess we're going to touch on C9 briefly.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're seeing we talked about this in previous Rift walks. We've once again this week Cloud9 dropped another game, so they went 1-1, which is something that's not favorable for them, considering that they're playing some of like the lower division teams in the league. So they're like playing like everyone who you could probably say, okay, they're probably beneath them, like the likes of Team Impulse, Winter Fox, Dignitas. In the first 2 weeks, Cloud9 played against like the top 4 or 5 teams in NA, depending on where you place Cloud9. So this is when they pick up the wins, want to get back up in the standings, and they dropped a game to Winter Fox. And it's not like they got smashed completely by Winter Fox. They had a huge advantage. Balls, at one point in the game, had double CS on Winter Fox's top laner, whose name escapes you right now. It starts with a K. I want to say.
Are you
But
serious?
Balls had like...
It's
it's...
Avalon.
Avalon, excuse me, K. I don't know where I had the K from.
Yeah.
Avalon, yeah. Avalon was on the Sandra. He had like 70 CS. Balls had 140 on Maokai. And they still lost with such a huge front line.
All right, so here's the
It's
thing.
just like...
This is not new, okay? So
It's not, no. Like
in
we
the
mentioned.
the first week of the LCS, Balls had multiple huge leads, like 50 CS in one game and 80 in the other. And in both games, the enemy top laner ended up being more effective. And
Yeah.
Balls it's just clear that he's not as good as he used to be. He's fallen off quite a bit. He's
Yeah.
not. I don't know if he's not. If there's a team communication problem, so he's just not able to exert the influence over the map, but he should. But the CS leads he's getting, that's a pretty sizable investment into.
Someone who's not carrying the game for you.
Yeah, if you're going to make that investment into a player, they need to hold up their
They need
end.
to show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's not really doing that. Now, I'm trying to think of how the game's played out. One key element of Winter Fox's victory was like Glebe, actually. He made a couple really critical plays in that particular game. There was one team fight where there were 3 members left on the side of both C9 and Winter Fox, and Sneaky, Lemonation, and I think Meteos is still alive, were chasing down the enemy team that still had Pole Belter, Glebe, and I think they're AD carry. And Glebe flashed right onto Sneaky after he burned his summoner heal, stunned him up, and then Pole Belter instantly turned on him, and that secured the fight for Winter Fox in that case. And then after that, Elimination got picked off, Balls also got picked off, and so they had to fold that fight. And then later on, Cloud9 tried to make a pick onto Glebe, who was really tanky as Leona at this point. High went in, burned his spells, Balls went in, and then they weren't able to chunk Glebe down. Winter Fox counter-engaged, they took Baron, and from there it was pretty much game over for Cloud9, which after such a huge lead and looking really solid in the other game. So that was weird to see from the historical sense of Cloud9, but it's something that's been happening in this split with them fairly often.
Yeah.
Definitely concerning.
I mean, what they're trying to repair is like, I think High is slowly building his champion pool back up. It was clearly, as far like there's a difference between playing the champion and actually being good at playing the champion. So like High was playing the meta picks, but I don't think he wasn't good at them, and I think he's climbing his way back. But I don't think that Cloud9 has gotten their team fighting back there. Like High's mechanics are better, but the rotations are still poor. The just the shot calling in general is poor, and I'm not really sure what their next step is because they can't go back to how they used to play because Balls isn't playing as well and High isn't playing as well.
Right.
So it's just like
Well,
they need to find a new strategy or a new. They need to prioritize their goal effectively. I guess it's just like it's a general. Multiple players on the roster have gotten worse.
yeah, it feels like
Sneaky's
that.
got better throughout all of last year, but I don't
Mm.
think he has any farther to go. I mean, he's probably the best AD carry in the West, or at least in NA.
NA Forgiven has that West title, but yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah, it's
I don't
really
think he
hard
can get
left
better.
to say.
And I guess
Yeah, no,
Meteos hasn't been great.
no,
Uh,
he hasn't, and which is weird because he was like dominant at IM San Jose, and he hasn't played Jarvan since then. His Jarvan looked immaculate at that tournament,
mhm.
and he hasn't busted it out for some weird reason. Like there was that first game he picked Elise instead when Jarvan was open. They could have had the Jar Narvan combo. Um, his rec side looks okay, but he's been really less impactful. He got High rolling early in this game, to be fair. Like they got like first blood, I think, for High, or maybe it was second blood, I can't recall. But they got High kill early in lane with a really good gank, and then it just, I think Cloud9's team fighting overall looks pretty subpar at this point, which is just weird considering how well they played those out before.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing for me is with Meteos is that he doesn't he doesn't have the map pressure he used to, and I don't know if it has something to do with maybe by some crazy coincidence or some part of maybe the new jungle has just thrown him off his game. It's not that different,
Maybe.
but
No,
maybe
it's
somehow
not,
it
but
has, and it's very
hmm
it's
one
very
thing I
odd.
noticed, yeah, it is odd. One thing I did notice, at least in the Winter Fox game, I had to look at all the other games and check on his builds, but he didn't build a Sightstone in his game against Winter Fox, which we see a lot of junglers doing. I think
Mhm.
Santorin's been doing it. Most Korean junglers are doing that, namely on Lee Sin and Jarvan, but like on even like any jungler they play as, they get that extra. Getting that extra Sightstone is so much value to the team in terms of just getting extra vision control down. And I didn't see him itemize it in that game. I don't know if he
Exactly.
forgone it
I
in
think he
other
might have been
games, but he
going
seems
towards it. Who knows?
maybe.
He.
Mhm.
I guess what's interesting to me is so vision control by definition improves shot calling because the more information you have, the better your shot calling is. So maybe that could
Mhm.
be an issue. One thing that was interesting in that game is Sneaky built a banner of command. Not
Team
Sneaky, sorry,
elimination.
Lemonation on
Yeah,
Janna.
no, I saw that.
That's a very
Mhm.
interesting choice, and I don't know if maybe Cloud9
I
was
think when.
trying to try out some different strategy,
Mm,
trying to use that to kind of like manipulate the waves.
mm.
But I feel like a team that's struggling to get wins should just be working
Just
on
be playing with, yeah.
right.
Just be
They
playing like
can't
what's pretty
afford
standard.
right. They can't afford to be testing stuff out. And
Yeah.
even I
And
mean, they're one loss away from being in sixth place. They're a
better
loss
than last.
to a teammate or Dignitas away from being tied for sixth, seventh, eighth place, ninth place type of deal. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of teams in NA right now. Like it's Cloud9, Gravity, Impulse, Liquid, and Winter Fox are all tied. So it's like, and
Right.
then it's Coast who's quite probably going to get relegated at this point.
Mm.
I don't see them bouncing back enough, even to take over Dignitas really. And I think Teammate's better. So,
Right.
but there's two spots of relegations that Cloud9 is fairly close to. So,
Mm.
and I
Yeah,
think
and
you
I'm
wanted to
actually
talk
looking at.
about Winter Fox with
We have
Glebe.
the. Yeah, I mentioned that point already. Glebe made some really critical plays in that game on Leona, which let them win some really key team fights. So he stepped up pretty big in this game. If there was a reason that Winter Fox won the team fights that they did, it was some plays that he made. And going back to my point earlier on Meteos, he's played Vi and Nidalee these last couple of weeks, and this week and in the previous week, he didn't build a Sightstone in any of the games he played. Going back to his Yeah, actually looking at also the second week of play, Meteos has not been building like any side stones at all. And I think that's overall hurting his team where they need that extra vision in order to make the better play calls.
Yeah,
So
I also think
I think he needs to adapt.
he's falling back to Vi. Like he's played Vi for a very long time, and
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe he's just not comfortable on many champions right now, and he just keeps
I don't know.
picking
He looked
Vi.
really good on Italy. Yeah, he was really good on Italy jungle when he
Nidalee is
he looked pretty
broken
good on that.
as hell.
Broken as
So
shit though. So
yeah, that's
there's
not
that.
really
And a lot of people are playing Vi in NA and EU at least. So I'd be interested to see him pick up Lee Sin again because he did pretty well on that champion. So I don't know what's going on with Meteos or Cloud9 in general. It's still weird, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they sat down and like had a serious talk and looked at roster changes at the end of the season if they don't improve. If they get it together midway through, because again, historically,
I
Cloud9
predicted that they would
starts.
make a roster change. Not that that makes me Nostradamus.
So,
all right, so
yeah, it's just like way down it.
the
All right, so
topic
next
that we all want to talk about is TSM versus CLG.
Link, my boy, you did it again.
That was okay. So,
So
here's the thing, right? I want to set this out. Okay, so there's one of the big things with that game is that people want to talk about is that that one fight where there were two fights, right? So in one fight, Link whiffed his ultimate because he ulted himself and not the enemy, and not an actual enemy champion. Right?
It was at 36 minutes for the CLG's fifth dragon. Yeah, that fight.
Right, but the other thing he did, was a little earlier. He was off there again around positioning around dragon. And he was coming from the bot lane. He was supposed to be flanking, right? So the big thing that people were talking about was that he flanked in way too late, and just. The flank failed. Like by the time he got in the fight, so Zionsbar and Goff are good ultimate. Zionsbar and Goff are pretty good ultimate.
You're talking about the last fight. Yeah, you're talking about the last fight in the game. This took after.
The last fight. Sorry.
Yeah, the last one. I actually did a video on that on YouTube, looking at that. Zion like almost won the game right there for CLG.
He had a perfect ultimate.
And
yes.
Link dropped it. Yeah, what? The only person who wasn't stunned was Lustboy, and that's because Lustboy's Banshee was popped by Nar's ultimate.
Right, but that
that's
also means
he wasn't stunned.
Like there's a reason that Lissandra couldn't engage, right? And as much as I don't want to defend Link, as much as I don't want to be like, okay, Link has no fault whatsoever, right? But Link is trying to do two things. He's trying to manage a big wave in the bot lane, right? And that's pushing in, but also Lustboy is kind of holding him off from getting in at various points because Lustboy was sitting there with Banshees and a stun just ready to go. So Link had to be careful of when to go in. Now, he still went in a little too late, but it's not like it was like the decision making wasn't clearly awful. Honestly, the bigger throw in that fight was Doublelift by far. He found himself smack dab in the middle of Bjergsen, Dyrus, Lustboy, and Turtle.
Yeah, everyone did that. Yeah, no, a lot of people either rip on Doublelift or Link. I kind of rip on both of them.
It was more
looking at your points. Looking at your points, my view is this. Just summarize. I think Doublelift, when he saw how the initial fight went, he went into his panic. Oh shit! I gotta get in there and do like Season 2, 80 carry damage, just destroy everything, and then that's like the worst thing he could have done.
Well, and he did that early in the game too. He Valkyried over the wall to get Bjergsen.
Yeah, he exasperated the problem. I felt like, which he still should get blamed for that because he's.
No, he should, and that's the thing because that was his mentality for a long time. And it's just a troubling return for this. Okay, things are going bad, I have to make some kind of crazy play. And that's how he always was, but that's supposed to be fixed. He's supposed to know that like that's not what it is anymore. Kind of and yes, your AD carry is supposed to be like you want your AD carry to be aggressive, but it's a matter of choosing the right time.
Yeah, it's like his timing was really bad in that. But a point on the Link engage, nothing really stopped his E from going in. By the time like his flank was coming up, like TSM burned every single ultimate they had except for Ahri. And then, like, the whole backline was done. It's like his claw came up, he didn't warp to it for some reason, and then Zion Spartan made his play, and Link wasn't there, and then like he hesitated further. So.
Right, but here's the thing.
No, double lift was also a big problem. Double lift was a big problem, especially with how he went in, because that made it worse for the fights.
I feel like we'd have to see the comms, because for all we know, Zion might have gone in when he had maybe he didn't tell the team. Like it's a communication thing. Like, so if one shot, because Zion's obviously not the shot caller, right? The top laner is usually it's gonna be Xmithy or Afmu probably. Like Zion's probably not gonna be like, all right, so this is what we're doing. So for all we know, like the primary shot caller in that scenario, which was probably Xmithy, since this was technically a fight around Dragon, was okay. So we're gonna back off.
Also got caught out.
And then and then Zion goes in. So it's one of those things where Link has to choose who to listen to, and by time Zion goes in, it's too late because like you.
Yeah, we have to see the comms.
Because that Lissandra. But I mean that spell has a cooldown, so once it's used, if and someone says, "Hey, don't go in," and then Zion Spartan goes in, well, now he has no gap close. So it's
so that could be it. Yeah, we'd have to see like how the comms played out. I do agree with that.
I am hesitant to straight up Link bash. That's just what I'm saying. I'm hesitant to just straight up be like, "It's all Link's fault. He's terrible. Needs to be benched."
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say that. I don't think anyone is saying that. I do think I know for a fact that jokes are flying around that Link did Link things and choked. In fact, on our article panel, we joked that Riot had an Illuminati conspiracy to hype the game up so much that CLG would be placed on tilt and freak themselves out because they were not ready for a world where CLG beat TSM and was #1 in NA. They just were not ready. So, and since Link historically has choked in high pressure situations like playoffs and stuff, so
and the thing is like, I mean, Xmithy got cut out. Honestly, the hitbox on that charm was so bad, right?
It was wrong. And Bjergsen also he predicted that frickin' juke by Xmithy or something.
Predicted or just because I zoomed in on that.
Went into it.
It missed. In my opinion, that freaking missed. It was absurd. I have no idea how.
Start off the fight. And the thing with that comp is that Vi is more like the team's primary engage, and then Lissandra and Gnar are secondary.
Vi didn't even get to ult.
Their primary engage. Yeah, he didn't. He got chunked way too low. So Xmithy. I don't know how much we can blame him for getting hit by a wayward charm.
No, and the thing is, I guess it's just the blame's twofold. That's it. It's Link being too hesitant to go in, and maybe because if he's shot calling in that fight, right, which is possible, then teams need to have somebody who's going to go make the play.
Yeah.
And I think a more confident player might have been like, okay, so this is my role. The TSM is so good at team fighting because each player knows their exact role. And I think that's not something that might necessarily is on COGs. I don't think every player knows their role.
Yeah, they're figuring it out. Yeah, which, I mean, it's a new roster. They're playing with Zion Spartan. It's his third week with them in the LCS. Yeah, because he missed on the first one. So I do see that. And I mean, CLG, they had a really strong opening in the game, and then they had issues come up, and they began to throw it. So, I mean, CLG, it was their game to lose with how it started off and at the lead that they got into it, which I was also really happy to see CLG punish TSM's lack of dragon focus, because TSM had, no dragon control, and they were threatening a 5th dragon.
Yeah,
TSM, they got to that point.
TSM hasn't. They just don't really seem to prioritize the dragon really much. Much. This is not the first time.
Bit them in the ass.
It's fine. It
almost bit them in the ass.
It's fine if you get 1, and you don't keep and you don't let the other team get 5. If you let the other team get 5, then you're in trouble, and you just need your 1 for the late game boost. Otherwise, you're just going to be a little behind.
Yeah. So. That almost came back to bite them, but then CLG misplayed a few areas, and they were able to actually stop the 5 dragons from coming in. And I think that we kind of, in a way, saw the TSM style almost flutter, at least the early game style, which is really tower focused. They weren't able to really bully down the objectives like we've seen in other games, because CLG was able to board it off. And then with that failing, their lack of dragon control almost came back to make sure that they didn't have control in the late game. And even in that gold fight, CLG still had like a 4K, 2K gold lead.
Yeah.
But there was just
well, gold
the team didn't operate as a
elite
unit.
that size does
Which at
not
that point,
matter.
it's like,
yeah,
it's
too late in the game for that.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Team TSM is 6th in the LCS in Dragons. They clearly don't prioritize it. This is not the first game where they've had one dragon and the other team has had 3 or 4. I mean, they don't let the other team get Baron. I mean, they're tied with CLG for the most Barons in EU. And sorry, in NA. And obviously, now granted, this is a side effect of a good team, because if you're winning, you're going to destroy a lot of towers. But TSM does have the most tower kills in the NALCS, which makes sense because they've won the most games, and you always get those extra 2 towers at the end when you win. But so it's just like, when you watch their games, they almost always will make that trade of, I will take this tower in exchange for that dragon.
Yeah, which I think is a smart trade, but I think that it could be punished a whole lot more than it is in NA.
They're going to struggle big time against SK Gaming.
So
SK Gaming has...
So
here's the... So we've had 8 games, right?
Right.
SK Gaming has...
Europe.
Yeah.
NA, that's right.
Yep.
NA, that's right. They're 7-1. Okay.
SK Gaming has gone 30 dragons. That's averaging almost 4 a game.
Yeah, that's...
So it's one of those things where averaging almost 4.
Yeah,
okay, so the second most
so...
is Copenhagen Wolves with 24. Like, it's not even close. They have the most.
Yeah.
Yep, second most Barons.
By far.
Most towers. One thing is interesting.
Because they win.
For a team, SK is supposed to be the team that wins with strategy, right?
Okay, yeah.
So they've actually they have yet to win a game in under 30 minutes. Does that surprise you?
Only with how, difficult it is to break those inhibitor towers without a Baron buff. So, if we were playing, in Season 4 League Land, before, all these new changes, the inner tower shields, changes to the minion wave, changes to the Baron buff, I think it would be definitely surprising that they're not winning in under 30 minutes. Hell, even, super dominant games, and, take up roughly, 30 minutes to end. It's rarer to see games that don't end in, sub 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised by that at all. I think 30 minutes is the new 20-minute fast push.
Yeah, I agree.
Close to that. So I'm not too surprised by that, given all the changes that have happened.
They're just the team you would think would have had at least a few. There's only been 6 under sub 30-minute wins in either LCS, in both LDSs combined. And one was one was a TSM stomp and one was a Cloud9 stomp, and obviously remember both of those. I think the Cloud9 one was last week, actually.
Was that last week? Okay. I'm trying to think who they played.
So, so TSM forever. TSM won.
TSM winnered.
Yep.
Wiener Worlds. So, but GG well played. Too bad it wasn't a best of 3, not for the sake of CLG winning, but for the sake of just more fun games. Because, in all honesty, that was really a fun game to watch.
No, it was.
Did live up to the hype.
The thing is, it's unfortunately just it's not fun to watch from
the way TSM won, CLG standpoint.
It's not fun to watch from wow, look at all these great rotations and how it plays.
It was just it became a farce. It did and I think about it, it's that was the number 1 place in NA fight. The two middle pack Korean teams played a 79-minute just epic battle royale, facing off with 5 dragons on one side and a Baron buff on the other, and that was middle tier shit.
Well, that's what happens. It's a TSM versus CLG thing, okay? When they face each other, shit hits the fan. It's just completely different. When TSM plays Cloud9, or when they did last split, it became one of those rotational games. But against CLG, something about it. But
about it, yeah.
We have one last topic to discuss, and it's Piglet being benched from Team Liquid. So your thoughts?
My thoughts. Okay, so I'll preface this by saying, while I thought Piglet would do well, I was always hesitant about the hype train around him. Not from a standpoint of, he's going to beat every AD carry. I didn't doubt that he's going to be one of the best AD carries. I doubted that his coming in would like just face roll everything, because it's really hard these days to carry from like one position, especially the AD carry role. Like you have to have at least 2, maybe 3 positions doing really well on the map, and with the added focus of team play, you can't really like even Faker over in Korea doesn't 1v9 like at all. You can't do that within the environment. And on top of that, there's always the communication issues that occur, and I know that people like kind of go into the school of thought like, oh, AD carry is kind of like it's like the least communication intensive role, which I do agree with. Some of the personalities that go in there are pretty quiet. You think about like a Sneaky, pretty quiet, not double lift, Wild Turtle, pretty chill. But with his delayed arrival to NA with the visa issue, his lack of proficiency with English, as well as just kind of like he doesn't seem to have picked up on like some of the meta champions. Like it worried me when I understood why this happened. In his second week of play, so the third week, he busted out Vayne in both games. I can understand why Team Liquid would let him do that, because it's like, okay, like we need time to synergize with him. He needs to get used to the stage, what the hell ever. So let him play the champion that he's just going to do well on, do his thing on. But it boded badly for me just because it wasn't team-centric, which we see a lot of AD carries played nowadays. They're really contributing to the team, either in forms of like overall like a presence, Corki with his poke, Sivir with her ultimate, Kog'Maw being the center of a Juggernaut Kog'Maw composition. Vayne doesn't really fit into any of that, and so that's kind of encouraging Piglet just to do his own thing and not work with Team Liquid.
All right,
and then,
so
let's see.
We got one more topic after this, because something interesting literally just happened. So we're going to get to that.
So I'll let you drop that.
As what you said with Piglet, I literally think he thinks he's so good that he can just style on people. So he picked Vayne, thinking it's just like, I am Piglet, and I'm on Vayne. Like, this is my champion, right?
Yeah, this is my shit. And you see him play really aggressively. Like, in his Dignitas game against Core JJ, he and X-Special were super ham in lane, and they were like even losing on trades that they were starting.
Yeah, no, it was
like Sivir stronger in lane than Vayne. So there's
that. I think, and X Special did an interview with GameSpot, right, where he said that
GameSpot.
He was surprised that no one had gotten replaced. It was a miracle. The line was, it was a miracle that there were no roster changes. Now, clearly there have been now, but this was a week ago.
Yeah.
And one of the side topics was a difference in opinion in like practice and scrim schedules. And I think it's because Piglet's reputation in Korea was as like he spammed solo queue. Like that's all he did. He played till the middle of the night. Like he just did nothing but solo queue. And I don't know if maybe he expected like everyone else on Liquid to just have the same exact mentality. But and then I also think that one of the things that you see with some teams is like TSM plays mid priority, right? And I don't know if because Piglet rolled in with the hype of and the expectation even from within the team of being the primary carry, so like an AD carry style priority team. And bot lane priority is interesting in my opinion. It doesn't necessarily historically work, except in very specific scenarios. I guess the teams that Uzi's been on have been one of them, but there's typically been like one other really big carry on the team that can somewhat take pressure away. And,
always there to back up.
Liquid has great players. I'm not sold on Phoenix.
They do.
But obviously, X Special is the best sport in the history of NA. I think he's I think he's a little worse than Aframu this year. I think Aframu
so
gets.
Far.
Not that that's a whole. I mean, Aframu's been playing out of his mind. It's crazy. Quas, I think is. I think they need to give him more gold. Like one of the things I've been doing is just compiling like statistics for how much gold teams are giving their players, and like the percentage, right? And a lot of it, like, so with Team Liquid, Quas has been like in the first week, for example, 2 of his games, he had 2 of the 3 lowest gold percentages for the top lane, right? See,
so
and that's like been consistent. He hasn't.
8th poorest top laner.
Yeah, they don't give him much
in week
gold
one.
in comparison because
Yeah,
there's limited number of creeps and gold available, and they're
all
just
that.
he's not the one
Yeah,
they're sending to clear the lanes. And while he
right.
performed very well that week, it's one of those things where it's just like Quas is
Mm,
really good. I will dominate's pretty good. Um,
mm,
and I think Keith McBrief is just a better pick for that team because, but with
mm.
that pick, they will use more of their weapons. And
Yeah,
they're at their best, I think, with their players when they take a balanced approach because they have so many good players that why would you focus everything on getting one player going when you have quads, when you have
mm.
I will dominate, when you have Xpecial there to make plays? Like
Yeah.
spread the love
It's
around.
weird.
And
Yeah, a little bit. That.
Piglet was too arrogant, I think, or maybe a little
Mm,
too cocky to be
yeah.
okay with that. Like he wanted to put everyone on his back, and I think
Yeah, which I think that could be the case, especially since reasons for him being benched remark around his attitude and toxicity. There was like a challenger scene player I think on Twitter who had stated like he's not benched because of his performance, he's benched because of his
yeah, that
attitude
was yes
toxicity, and then the coach and the coach retweeted it. So that's like, oh, there's some legitimacy to that. And I feel like we kind of almost see that even in the team compositions themselves on times, because if you remember in Keith's first game, so back in week 1, they did like a straight up protect the AD carry comp. Fenix was on Lulu, Quas was on Gnar, they got Janna for Xpecial, they got Kog'Maw for Keith, which Piglet isn't a Kog'Maw player by any means.
Nope.
And
Nope.
they had Lulu on Fenix. And then later on when they played their game against TSM, if Fenix had picked he picked Ahri in this game, if he picked Lulu instead, it was like the identical comp except with Piglet on Caitlyn.
And they
But they
executed
didn't do
it
that.
very well in the first game
And they
with Keith
played it
McBride.
really well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Keith. Granted, they played against Tip, who was like playing with a whole bunch of subs, so
Yeah.
it's a question of legitimacy
I agree.
there.
I agree.
But like they still looked really good with it, and I can't help but wonder if it's just like if they felt more comfortable with playing with Keith because of his communication, as far as just like putting all that on him. And like, okay, what you're going to do with that. If Keith's like, hey, I'm going to go up to harass them, like shield me, whatever. I don't know because I haven't heard the comms. But, and to contrast for a moment, because Fenix is also from Korea, his English is actually pretty okay. He's done interviews and like with like pretty broken English. Xpecial in an interview with SK Gaming, I looked some of the stuff up because I'm actually writing a piece on Piglet and Keith for Liquid Legends. Xpecial complimented Phoenix's, is it Phoenix or Fenix? I think you're trying to correct pronunciation somewhat. Phoenix, okay. Phoenix is he complimented in game, saying like, hey, there's like no difference for him like in Europe or not in Europe, in English and in Korean when it comes to scrim. So he's fantastic in game.
Yep.
So that's a patch that Phoenix does not have to worry about. That you have that issue with Piglet.
So the thing is, I'm gonna compare this to TSM with Santorin. Okay. So sometimes it's not about which is the best player; it's what's the best player for the team.
For the team.
So Piglet is
agree.
without a doubt a mechanically superior player to Keith McBrief. Okay.
Yes,
but
I agree.
Keith
completely
seems to fit into the team's play style or ideal play style for the players they have better than Piglet does. And the same thing with TSM.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily certain I would say Santorin's a better mechanical player than Amazing. I think the jury's out on it, Santorin Jung. But Santorin seems to be fitting in very well with TSM. He knows what his job is, and he executes it. He's not making, obviously, these flashy plays. No one's going to mistake him for, like, Svenskeren or something. But he's exactly what TSM needs. And I think with
he just
Liquid, I think Keith is what the team needs. And the thing is, if they're smart, does Liquid have another Challenger team in the Challenger Series this year?
I don't know, but I think I already get at what you're getting at. Yeah.
If they have a Challenger
team,
team,
go play with them.
Okay, it does look like so. It's Team Fusion, Final 5, Enemy Esports, TDK, and CLG Black, and the new team, which is what we'll be talking about next.
Yep.
So
I saw the tweets now.
There's no So there's no curse. I was gonna say because what I would do is have him. on the
Playing
new
that.
Curse Academy team and just like
Yeah,
have
Liquid
them get
Academy.
used to playing in NA. But
Yeah,
I
with the
think
language and stuff. Yeah.
I think that's about
I
all.
Yeah. But one thing to bring up though is that this benching might not be permanent.
Oh
Like
no,
if
definitely,
Keith,
yeah.
yeah, no. Like this, I think this is like an appropriate step for Liquid to take, especially since we've seen it at this point. Piglet and Team Liquid aren't gelling,
No, they're
and
not.
we have yet to see. We have yet to like see Keith do really well. Like okay, so people are like, oh, but they played like Tip with subs, so there was that. They also played CLG, and although CLG had a substitute top laner, they also still had like the rest of their lineup.
Yep.
And CLG is like second best team after losing to TSM in NA. So, and Keith did well. In fact, he like outplayed. Okay, not really outplayed, but he outperformed Doublelift, and he was making plays. He looked good in that game.
No, he did.
So,
Yep.
I think that this is a right call. Just see, okay, hey, maybe we're better with Keith right now, and then what they can do is that okay, they can get like if Piglet needs an attitude readjustment, then this can be like, hey, just because you're over here doesn't you have to play by these things. They can probably get more of improve the infrastructure for the support staff because I don't know if they have translators.
I'm sure they do.
For Team
They
Liquid.
have
Yeah,
more
I'm sure
money
they do.
than
They
God.
have to, and they have Phoenix as well, like to play that role as
Yep.
well. Maybe. But they can definitely get like Piglet to figure it out because there's got to be something going on psychologically because when you've played at Season 3 World Championships, I find it hard to believe that you do something as like menial as forget your masteries in your first game in NA.
That's crazy.
There's something there's something going up with Piglet mentally that I don't
he's
know
not
what
on
it
his
is.
A game.
Yeah,
So-
so I think this is a really good call, and then if Piglet gets it together and they can put him back in, and then Team Liquid is, if it's the rise of Piglet that we expected, great. If it's not, but Keith does really well, then great. Either way, it's like close to win-win for Team Liquid in this choice. So
Yeah,
I support
we'll see. They have Winter Fox
Hashtag
and
keep-
TSM,
keep Keith.
so it's not going to be easy.
Yeah,
But if they beat TSM with Liquid,
yeah. So
with
Keith.
who knows? All right, so
yeah,
lastly,
they did lose to TSM with Piglet, so
they did. So
Step up,
last we
Keith.
have
step up, Keith.
something interesting. And the TSM,
Yeah.
all right, so Cloud9 Tempest is disqualified from the Challenge Series, right? So the team that was going to replace them, the team that they beat, Team Confound, is now in the LCS, is now in the Challenge Series.
Okay.
And they were picked up by TSM, and their name is TSM Darkness, which is sweet in my opinion. I hope.
Yeah, that is.
And their
that's pretty
jungler is a Zingy, so I know a Zingy is gonna bring out some like lovely picks, utilizing that darkness like
good. Uh-huh.
name. Okay, I expect Nocturne at least once, like required, right?
Yeah, let's go.
But this
Come
is
on, it's like,
TSM's
you gotta go
first.
for the pun.
They haven't had a
Challenging.
secondary team since TSM Evo. It's been a long time, and for a while there, Reggie had said he was never going to do it again. But they're really actively expanding their brand now. I mean, they're into
Organization.
CS:GO, Hearthstone, Smash.
Yeah, which a lot of teams are doing.
So it's
Yeah,
and it's
a lot of
pretty clear that
organizations.
it's. I'm sure he's talked to because that he TSM, Liquid, and Cloud9 are all kind of in this thing with HTC. I'm sure he's had discussions with Liquid about like the financial viability of like having this challenger team, whether it's profitable, because
Yeah.
obviously in the situation like this, if the team's successful, he has to sell it. So it's all about
Right.
building the brand and also making money.
Yeah.
So
Money.
and TSM has the money. I mean, they'll get it. So I think it's a very interesting thing, and I was,
Yeah, no.
and it's also like I feel like it's a bit of a middle finger to Cloud9 in a way, because
It's
like
we took
TSM
your
buying the
number one,
team.
We're taking your challenger team. We're gonna take everything
It's
from you.
so
Those jackets
smart though.
are
They
ours.
didn't
It
pick
is.
up the team until they were guaranteed this challenger series spot, right? So it's interesting. So
Yeah, no, definitely. Reggie's always been really good as far as like how he's
he's
managed
so
TSM as an
shrewd.
owner.
He is so shrewd,
He-
and I think
really
he's
shrewd,
really.
but it works.
I think he's really coming to
works.
his own as an owner since he stepped down as a player. But that's a topic
Yeah,
for another
no, he
day.
is. Oh yeah, that is. So all the TSM League hype here, that little reality series.
Yep. TSM
So,
Legends
yeah,
is
so-
great. So yeah, go watch.
Yeah, no.
Go watch
it's
TSM
good, yeah.
Legends.
Go
The
watch that right now. Go pretend officially endorses.
the intro is so hype though. You've seen it, right? The intro
I
is.
had to look it all the way through. I jumped to the hyped Bjergsen Loco.
Oh no,
argument,
the
but,
intro
yeah,
is
I'm not surprised.
is fire, man. The intro is fire.
It's fire. It's flaming.
All right,
It'll
so
go great with my fireballs.
that wraps up episode 4 of Riftwalk, and thanks for watching. And we'll be back next week with breaking down El Clasico.
El Clasico. Oh yeah.
All right.
Hype. Thank
See
you
you
guys for having
guys.
us. Peace out.